trying something new. This is my last-ditch effort. I am drowning in student debt. I have over $75,000 in student debt, and I'm not even done with school.
Okay, so I have 3 federal loans I'm looking at. I have 1, 2, 3, and I'm just curious. So my monthly payment, hold on, I want to show you. My monthly payment is, look, $250.44 per month, and I think that's a lot, but I would just like to know, how many federal loans do you have, and how much do you pay a month? Because I feel like $250 is a lot, but maybe that's not, I don't know, maybe that's average. And I went to school for dentistry, so I mean, I guess that's how much you would pay, but I'm just so curious, how much is your loan, what did you go for, and was it worth it? Was it worth it? I'm genuinely curious, because when I see that $250 come out of my account every month, I'm about like, oh my goodness, that's so much. But let me know.
I just got paid from Piggy today. Let's be super financially responsible and pay down another loan. So from the past 7 days, this is how much I've made from the 3 Piggies that are in my Faceless OF. A fun fact, 1 out of 3 loans are already paid down. This loan is about $65,000. So I'll pay like 4 or 5 months in advance right now. I did that just now. As you can see, I actually used to do $30 a day for this loan because I thought that was convenient for me at the time. But now we are at a balance of $61K. This is my other Parent Plus loan for my dad. So I could completely pay this loan off right now, but it would completely wipe me out. Like I wouldn't have any savings. I wouldn't be able to, put down money for like a new car. I don't have a car, so that would be a blessing. Like, what would you do in this situation? Because this loan technically has a super high interest rate. And if I did knock it out, I would only have to worry about 1 loan left. So I just, it's hard. Money, oh my gosh, money gives me agita, but I want to be financially responsible. I feel as if right now, I don't think I'd want to do that, especially having savings for the baby, having savings for our family. That is so important. So yeah, what would you guys do in this situation?
And the bottom of my casket will have a file cabinet for all these student loans to rest in heavenly peace. That's how much I owe in student loans. How much money I owe in student loans. Now let me provide you with some additional information, since I know that this video is going to go viral because people are cruel and a lot of people are going to be ready to attack me in the comments and judge me and do whatever they got to do to feel good about themselves. I am a proud 25-year-old with over $100,000 in student loan debt. I went to school. I got a free associate degree through the early college program. I then furthered my education and got 2 additional degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship with a minor in management, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. But one thing America doesn't know about me is that I have 1 additional degree that's not on file and it's not in the records anywhere, and that's a law degree. At any given point, I'm prepared to take the stand and explain why I cannot afford to pay a dime on them student loans.
Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill has been passed through the House of Representatives, and there is some stuff in there that's really going to make people upset, especially if you are looking at going to college in the next few years. I'm Brian, and make videos about civics and law. Please like, comment, get this video out there so people will see it. This is important information. And people are not really covering this bill the way they need to. And I'm just reading it, guys. So don't shoot the messenger. Okay, yesterday I made a video about how much you're going to be able to take out a year in student loans, and how the calculation for the cost of your program is going to change. The problem is that that does not take one really big factor into account, and that is the cap on the total amount you're allowed to take out. Now, those of you who are in Generation X or older might be surprised to know how much college costs these days, but anybody who is a millennial or younger is going to be a little bit shocked to hear some of these numbers. Let me read this to you. Now, I mentioned yesterday that subsidized loans are totally off the table. Grants are cut back, but they're always just a little bit. So mostly, everybody's going to be paying for college with unsubsidized loans. Well, according to Section 30011, the maximum aggregate amount, the total you can take out for the entire time you were in college, of federal direct unsubsidized loans is $50,000. Let me say that again. You cannot take out more than $50,000 to pay for all of college. I would like to know how many of you watching this would still have been able to go to college if that had been the case when you went. Graduate students are capped at $100,000, professional students at $150,000. But if you try to go to grad school and professional school, So like law school and a master's, the total caps out at $150,000. Say what you will about the ballooning price of college, with inflation, 1/4 of $50,000 is $12,500 a year. That is not a lot of money to pay for teachers, equipment, facilities, dorms, food. So I'd be surprised if this passes through the Senate. We're going to have to see whether they decide to fight on everything or just on a few things. I put a copy of this on my shared documents in my link tree if you want to go take a look. I believe it's around page 160. Definitely worth giving a read. This also really cuts down on repayment assistance plans around page 186, and the bill seems to rely heavily on the Secretary of Education, which is confusing because I thought they were shutting down the Department of Education. Finally, public service loan forgiveness is gone on page 199. We already have a shortage of physicians. This cuts the amount they can take out down to $150,000, and it cuts out the incentive for them to work at nonprofit or low-income hospitals where they are really needed. If you live out in a rural area and have a doctor, it's because of public service loan forgiveness.
Just found out that my estimated student loan debt payoff is in the year 2049. 2049. 2049. Do I have my fiance start planning my funeral today or tomorrow?
Y'all, they about to garnish our wages. They really know how to just ruin your day. The U.S. government hates everybody here. Y'all, as of May 5th, they're taking 15% of your wages towards student loans. Y'all, I've been ignoring student loans since I've been in school. If y'all know how much I owe in student loan, y'all would think I went to school to be a lawyer. And it's a degree that wasn't even providing me a decent lifestyle. I was just living off vibes. So you mean to tell me I went to school and y'all lied to me? Y'all wanted me to go out there and do triple the work to get a degree. Y'all, I owe so much money. I'm in Texas, so we don't have state tax. 15%. Hell, you might as well go ahead and add 5 more. Add 10. Because that's the state tax. I cannot believe this. I just had to pull over, y'all. My head started throbbing. I'm about to get a headache. They're doing this in a couple of weeks, y'all. I got to go do deferment. I got to go do something. Y'all, we can't get away from this. People are even already saying that their credit score has dropped from a 700 something to a 500 something. Oh my gosh, my credit score. 15%, whether you have it or not, as of May 5th. So long as you have money in your bank account, they are taking it. Matter of fact, financial aid just called me the other day and I hung up on them. Not in the mood, don't have it. I'm living off life. I'm vibing. This man really said, you know what? Let's make the rich richer. Let's make the others poor.
All right, so sneaky news nobody knows about, no one's talking about. Student loan repayments started again, and it has wrecked millions of credit scores. Not late payments on credit cards, not bankruptcies, just student loans kind of quietly coming back online. And now, no one realizes we're looking at a credit crisis in plain sight. According to the report from the Federal Reserve, I think 2.3 million borrowers now have credit scores below 600, which makes them officially subprime. So why does this matter? Because here's where it gets even more serious. The Fed's report also said that 2.4 million of those borrowers would have qualified for car loans, credit cards, mortgages before the hit. But now they're going to get denied, not approved. If they do, they're going to be paying even higher interest rates than regular market, which is high enough as it is. So this one change, this quiet return of student loan payments, 2.2 million people lost 100 points on their credit in just 3 months. And over 100 million saw a 150-point drop. Think about that, how much that changes someone's financial situation, going from being able to be buying a house, buying a car, and then being locked out of the entire financial market. And the craziest part, many of these drops just came from one missed payment, not big defaults and debts, just missing one $400 payment that they didn't even know they owned. And after 3 years of paused payments during the pandemic, a lot of loans just restarted. And they didn't either get proper notice, or they forgot, or they were in a grace period, but the lenders didn't forget. And that was a payment missed, a credit report started taking the hit.
Why would an idiot like me take out $45,000 in student loans? Why would I pay the minimum for 9.5 years? That is because I'm a part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which was signed into law by George W. Bush in 2007. The point of the program was to incentivize people into lower paying jobs that benefit the country. Thank your teachers. Thank your federal workers. Thank your people who are running your charities. These people often take extremely low-paying jobs to make the world better and your country better. And in order to get those jobs, in many cases, you do have to have a college degree and a master's degree. So many people who need to run parts of our government, teach your children, run your charities, take out loans knowing that we are going to be part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. What are the terms of the program? You have to work 40 hours a week at a qualifying institution. You have to make 120 consecutive payments. You have to make payments through one of the government's payment plans. And after 10 years of making 120 of those consecutive payments, your loans are forgiven by the government. But what's wild is that even though so many people have signed up for this program, it is so hard to understand. The government changes it so quickly. It changes loan providers so often that less than 10% of people who enter this program, who have been making payments for 10 years, who have been in low-paying jobs for 10 years, less than 10% of those people have their loans forgiven. So let's answer some common questions from my last student loan video. Why would you take out a loan you couldn't pay for? The government signed a contract with us saying that we could pay for it because they would forgive it because we are helping you. Why would you make the minimum payment? That is the point of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. You are in a low-paying job. That means you make not a lot of money. That means you can only afford the bare minimum payment. And that means that the government has agreed to forgive your loans. You had 5 years to make interest-free payments during COVID. Why didn't you? Many people did not have jobs. Good. Did you thank Biden? No, but I did thank Bush. If I've been making my payments for 9.5 years, why am I making a video about the government garnishing wages? Because I care about what happens to other people. I have been lucky enough to be able to have employment to continue to pay my loans. And even with that being said, the interest on those loans have been absolutely through the roof. Why don't you work 2 to 3 jobs to pay your loans back? The government's supposed to forgive them based on their contract with me. But what's more, the minimum requirement is to work 40 hours a week. Most teachers, federal employees, and people working in nonprofits or charities are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. That's basically 2 jobs. I mean, I get it, right? I wish that I could have gone to college with no loans. But the truth is that a good percentage of our population makes less than $100,000 per year. We should not be telling our children and our people that they can't become teachers or doctors or lawyers or civil servants unless they're rich or unless they're willing to work themselves into the grave. The problem here is not whether people are lazy or not whether people are trying to take advantage of the government. It's whether the government has put a system in place that allows its citizens to make the world better for us.
Sorry, but I don't think paying back your debts is morally superior. I literally don't care that you grinded for over a decade and stretched yourself so thin and worked 2 jobs and missed out on kids' birthdays and missed out on funerals and missed out on your life, what is dwindling time in your life of mobility and good health in order to pay back, of all people, the federal government. You will never catch me working that hard for the federal government, ever. Ever, ever, ever. There are so many people in my comments, wait, I'm confused. I thought we were paying our student loans back. It's a loan, not a gift. Yeah, I literally don't care. Congratulations. You did? I'm not. And many people can't. And also the people that have been paying them back and are in good standing and trying to be a good citizen, quote unquote, because that's how we're measured, is how well we can pay back our debts when our own government is not even paying back our debts and our own president owes the state of New York so much money that he literally can't even go there. And the fact that he owes other states so much money that he literally couldn't hold rallies. And that's why he had to use really obscure, weird third-party vendors in order to hold rallies in states. He's gone bankrupt 6 times. So yeah, your neighbor who's got 3 children and weighed down by student loans, who has to file for bankruptcy in order to continue to pay her student loans, is the one that's morally inferior. Same government that sends $8.8 billion at the drop of a hat across seas to support an extinction of an entire people. Same government who manipulates and uses our stock market to their own advantage and insider trades every day. Congratulations. Like, you literally are living and dying to pay back the federal government, and it's never gonna be me. The bootlicking is insane. It's a really, really weird hill to die on when you can't even afford eggs. That goes for all debts. That goes for houses. That goes for cars. We're weighed down by cars and car loans with high interest rates because we don't have public transport that's affordable and or accessible. Weighed down by mortgages. Let's not even talk about that. None of us are ever going to own homes ever again. Allowing predatory practices like LLCs buying out houses, doing absolutely nothing about it, if anything, perpetuating the behavior. The federal government does not care about you. They're making billions of dollars off of your back. These debts are not ours. Paying back our student loans will not fix our debt deficit. Just run the numbers. The fact that they are bleeding out money in places like the DOD. It is not on me to bail out the government. It is not on the American people. They have just propagandized it that way. Until we see that, until we see our government as inherently evil and that they are all working towards the same goal, we will never have class solidarity and we will never, ever get ourselves out of this situation. We need some Eric Mays energy up in this.
This is the part that pisses me off because I did not take out $80,000 in student loans, not even close to that. And so I'm over here, like, I have no issue. I have zero issue. This is a simulated situation, and so they're guesstimating what I should owe. But like, I don't have any issue with paying for all of my education. I will pay for it. I will pay for it over the next 10 to 20 years. I don't care. I will pay for it. I have an issue with paying $20,000 to $30,000 of interest or more than that. It's gonna be more than that because it might take me more than 10 years to pay this off. And so, like, genuinely, no issue whatsoever. I'll pay the 60 grand. I will pay it. I don't want to pay 30 more in interest. Like, I'm not, like, why do you get $30,000 for loaning me money? What are you doing that earns that? Like, there's no work being done that earns $30,000 over 10 years. Nobody's doing that job. So why do I have to pay that? Where does that money go?
Y'all, ever since that announcement, I saw that announcement on the news, y'all, I just feeling like, yo, they coming for me. They coming for me. As soon as I start making a little piece of money, just a little piece of money, they try to take it. God damn. I'm like, bro, do y'all know what I'm over here doing research? Listen, there's so many announcements going on, y'all. If y'all have not looking into some resources to better yourself and keep afloat, it's gonna be hard for y'all. I cannot believe that they're trying to garnish wages. They're trying to really take a piece of your money for them student loans. And that's crazy. There's people in other countries don't even have to pay for college. I don't understand. And now it's just like we're getting punished for wanting to better ourselves. And I feel like for a nation and for a race, we should be the ones to be, okay, wow, these individuals were trying to do something, but they're falling on hard times the way they can't afford their loans. Now we're going to get penalized to the full extent for it. I'm telling you, this is scaring people away from wanting to go to college. Sadly, when I was growing up, I didn't have the right resources or how-tos or what to look out for. Everything was all advisor and winging it. And to be now where they're really garnishing wages, like back then they didn't teach me financial literacy, and I understand somewhat more about it growing up. So I just hope that a change will come. I heard they're impeaching him. They need to impeach then, because you doing too much, Trump, now. Like, I hope there's a method to your madness, because, of course, I'm American, I live here, but Trump, no, get him out of here.
So I found myself on the student loan side of TikTok.
honestly and truly, I feel like that gives me PTSD. So, what y'all may not know about me is that I went to undergrad and then med school. And so, fast forward, by the time I graduated, I had a bunch of student loan debt. I was actually lucky enough that my parents, out of pocket, paid for my first 3 years in college, but then that fourth year, they had to take out a loan. Their initial plan was to pay back that last year of my loan, and then I went to med school and started accruing more student loan debt. By the time I was out of med school, you know, they do like some type of financial counseling by the time that you graduate med school, and I hope it's better now. But basically, their biggest takeaway was consolidate your loans. And so in my naive 20-something-year-old mind, I was like, yeah, consolidate it. Just toss in that last year of my undergrad with all the rest of my med school debt. Don't do that. In my mind, I was basically like, yeah, that's a big number. Just add to it. We'll pay it off one day. That's really stupid. No one gives you the financial literacy to understand any of that, but that's not the point of this. The point of this is after I finished med school, I went on and did a residency, as one does, where I was on an income-driven repayment plan. For those of you that do not know, when you graduate from med school, it is very common to have 6 figures worth of student loans just from med school. And again, if we go back, I was lucky. I didn't have the 4 years of college. I basically had 3 and some change because my parents had been paying some of it. Anyway, I say this to say, so now when you are in residency, you start paying it back, but it's income driven. As a resident, you're not making that much money, right? And so I think I was paying initially like $400, $500, which is still a lot with the limited salary that you are making. And working, I'm going to say 80 hours a week. So getting paid below minimum wage to work as many hours as you do, you don't have another job when you're a resident. You don't. You shouldn't. You can't. No. So there's really no extra income depending on where you're living. That's another factor. So I paid when I was there, and then I went to fellowship. I went to a fellowship. I lived in Brooklyn. So I lived in New York City and paid a heck of a lot of money for cost of living. I was still paying, and I think at that point it might have gone up to like $700 or $800, which was a lot. I was po. Like, I was basically living paycheck to paycheck, rough time. So each year you have to apply for the income-driven repayment. One year they did not get my paperwork on time. Now, hold on. Again, we already talked about we've got 6 figures worth of debt. It accrues. It's just accruing interest because you're not paying that much with the income-driven. Now we're at multi-6 figures worth of debt. So when they gave me just the bare bones minimum, I want to say it was almost $3,000. I'm pretty sure I made maybe like $4,000 after taxes per month living in New York City. My point of all of this being that if you do not allow people to have income-driven repayment to be allowed to still pay on their loans, I literally would not have been able to live. And some would argue that I provide a decent service to society. And again, that was living in New York City, but I still don't think if I would have stayed here in Charlotte, like that would not, no, I would not have been able to live. Luckily, I don't have any dependents, and I wasn't quote unquote lucky enough to have a partner that was like paying for things for me. So I was the one. So when people have all these negative connotations about student loans, it's just a wild conversation to me, period. I mean, we could start with the cost of education to begin with, because that's crazy. And the cost has only gone up since I've been in school.
But to take such a large chunk of someone's income to pay back a loan because they are then wanting to provide in professions that unfortunately you accrue a bunch of debt. I don't have generational wealth to fall back on, and to be quite fair, a lot of people don't when you are going to these type of professional schools, because who has that much money laying around? But just another thing that this administration literally has no clue about. It's quite sad. I feel like I've seen people have a bill come in that says since they don't have it, their bill has gone from like $300 to over $1,000. Like, that's just not, we're not living in the times where for the average human being that's acceptable. And don't get me started with public service loan forgiveness, because truly I was a beneficiary of that and it was fantastic. I don't think people understand that by the time, because it's such a large number and it just accrues and you're really not paying that much on it, by the time that I got to benefit from that, my loans were in the $300,000 range. Okay? And I think people assume that doctors get paid like astronomical amounts. That's not true, particularly if you were like someone like me who went into primary care. In fact, newsflash, there's a shortage of people wanting to go into primary care because of pay and all these other factors, which is another thing. That's a whole nother story. It's like you are forcing people to do these super specialty fields because they're like, in order to just live comfortably and to make this like worth it with sacrifice and all those other things, let me go ahead and do that. But anyway, absurdities. What are your thoughts if you made it all 7 minutes through? But just another thing we can add to the tally of what's wrong with this administration.
I hope in 20 years from now we realize what a scam student loans are, because I think some of us have woke up to it, but there's a vast majority that's not paying attention. It is not about paying back the student loan or not. It is not about that. It is not about the narrative of we're going to come after you. That's the fear mongering the government wants you to believe, right? That's the fear mongering. Pay attention to what's happening on the back side of this. The funds are being moved from the Department of Education over to the Small Business Association. So what does that mean? I'll tell you what that means. Under the SBA, there's fewer consumer protections and more aggressive tactics. See, the loan at that point is considered more of a business loan. Under the Department of Education, it was considered a public investment. So there's different guidelines on that. Why would we not want the funds to be at the Department of Education? Well, the same reason that this particular administration wants to get rid of the Department of Education. But when we move those funds, i.e. the interest and all the payments that are being made into the student loans, that frees up the money to go to other ventures for the government. As where before, it kind of had to stay with the Department of Education because that's who the loan went to and that's who you agreed to pay it to. So now the funds are going to be used for other random crap that the government wants. And somebody's going to say, well, Doge is really taking care of it. No, that's the carrots they throw at you to keep you coming back for more. That's the carrots. So follow me on this. The government doesn't want you to pay back the student loan. They want to create the fear that you pay it back or we're coming after you and we're garnishing your wages and da-da-da-da-da. And the real issue is that they're going to use that money for random crap and then later on come back and still tell you you've got to pay more in taxes. So the person that's not got student loans, consider yourself lucky because you're only going to pay your taxes. Meanwhile, those of us that do have student loans, we're forever in debt for having a college degree. We are forever in debt. And you should be thanking some of us because some of us are healthcare workers, vets, teachers, lawyers, all that. So when somebody says, I didn't benefit from your student loan, yes, by God, you did. Yeah, you did. And the real issue is that we, as a collective, should be saying no more to the government. The cost of education in this country should not be a lifelong debt sentence. It should not be. There is no reason, the greatest country in the world, we can't have some sort of education that doesn't cost an arm and a leg and a debt sentence. What in the world? You graduate from high school and what do you have? Nothing. But you've got a bunch of corporations that demand what? A degree. They demand that, but do they offer to pay for that degree? Do they offer these stellar wages that will help you pay it off? Nope. But they expect you to have it. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's all hand in hand. And it's on the backs of the average American. Do I think that people don't want to pay their student loans? No, absolutely not. That's not the issue. The issue is that it's forever a debt and you can't get out of it. Wake up. Pay attention. This isn't about student loans. It's about the money aspect of it. Where is it going and what's it being used for? Pay attention.
Listen, I've been trying to bring you positivity and good news when we're being slammed with bad reports every other day, but we need to talk about the economy, because if you thought that it was in a bad space before, just hang on to your underthings. Buried in Trump's big, beautiful budget, or whatever alliteration MAGA is choosing, is the new student loan plan. Not only has he bankrupted 6 of his own businesses, but it appears that he's trying to bankrupt the American taxpayer too. And not just financially, educationally. Because buried in this bill is now a limit on student loans. So for the individual undergraduate borrower, you can borrow $50,000 a year, which for most American universities is not even going to pay for a full year with room and board, books, all of that. But your aggregate limit for borrowing for education will be $50,000, period. And for those whose parents will, take one on the chin for them, your parents used to have an unlimited ceiling for borrowing. So they could pay for years 1, 2, 3, 4 of your undergraduate or 2-year college. Well, now, within the big, beautiful bill, they can only borrow $50,000 one time. So, and that's after the student themselves has exhausted their $50,000 limit. So a parent can't just cover the cost of school for the child. The child has to take out a loan, only $50,000, and then if the parents take out one, it's only $50K. There, unless you go to a state school with in-state tuition, et cetera, people are going to have a very hard time paying for the undergraduate programs because school is not under $50K a year in most places anymore. And then in really bad news for graduate school, the aggregate total is $100K. Well, if you know anything about graduate school, it costs a lot more than that, oftentimes. And they're saying propose $150K lifetime limit for professional programs like, I would assume, medical or law school. Now, some medical and law programs cost $100K a year. So what does that mean? Either you have to be uber wealthy and have family wealth to be able to attend college, or you are just not going to be able to go. So what is the end game here? Clearly, this administration is trying to limit education for people of lower classes or who are not oligarchs or of the rich elite. So unless you've got a lot of money in the bank to go, and you could go from living in the projects to becoming a heart surgeon. But a lot of those people don't have that kind of money sitting around liquid in cash. So with this new bill, if it passes, these people, most of us, won't be able to afford school anymore. And I think that's exactly the point, to make a larger uneducated class, because by and large, the educated majority voted for Kamala Harris and Governor Walz in the last election. And a lot of the people who voted for Trump did not have a college education. And so by restricting the ability of most people to be able to afford a higher education, to learn, to expand their thinking, to interrogate thoughts and ideas, he's building up his base. more and more. I hate that I'm wearing a red shirt in this, but this is what I was wearing today. But what he's trying to do, in addition to making it more difficult to afford school, is basically raising the bar so that people can't understand and learn about history, about economics. And speaking of economics, in economics, macroeconomics, there's something called contractionary fiscal policy. Now, this policy is usually deployed in times of economic prosperity, when there's a boom, etc. And what it's meant to do is to slow down spending. And so inherently, we want wealth to be sustainable. We want prosperity to be sustainable, and we want the GDP to be high over years. But when a Federal Reserve enacts contractionary fiscal policy, things get very expensive, right? Interest rates go up, people get taxed higher, they have less disposable income, and so it slows down spending, right? Now, we weren't necessarily in an economic boom before, so his moves are pretty much unprecedented, because if people have to pay more to go to school, people are paying more for groceries. I just came back from the grocery store. Every single thing in my cart costs more than it did last week. Everything from $1 more to $3 more per item. Now, I know they said eggs came down, but I wasn't in the market for eggs today. If they have their Medicaid cut and they're having to pay out of pocket to go to an urgent care center and pay $200-300 cash out of their savings when they have an urgent or acute medical need, all of those things will eat into Americans' disposable income. So what happens is that it doesn't matter if he brings 100 businesses to the U.S. It doesn't matter if the tariffs didn't reach us, which they will. He told Walmart to eat the tariffs, but we'll see. With people having to pay for their own medical care, people having to try to scrape together pennies to get an education, no one's going to have any disposable income to spend on these American businesses that are on U.S. soil. This is a really backward plan unless what you're trying to do intentionally is collapse the economy. Because when people have more money, if student loan payments are lowered, if healthcare costs are lower, people have more money to spend. They buy houses, they buy cars, they buy new clothes, new Jordans, right? But if people don't have any money, they don't spend anything. And then the GDP of a country takes a dive. This is not a very smart economic plan at all, to basically bankrupt people in the US and then ask them to spend money that they won't have.
You don't have a lot of control over student loans once you sign the contract for them. In my opinion, that is how they get out of hand, because they are accruing interest while you're in school, so you're not paying on them. And the vast majority of student loans have variable interest rates. So the day that you signed, that interest rate could be wildly different by the time you get out of school and start paying. So when students graduate, they are saddled with not only the amount that they borrowed, but all the interest that has grown in the 4 to however many years that they were in college, and a variable interest rate, which may have started out on the low side, and by the time you've graduated, it's 9 to 12%, which is what happened to mine. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the vast majority of students who have to borrow and take out student loans in order to go to college don't really have the money to be paying on their student loans while they're in college. They either have to get a job, or they're using part of that student loan money for their living expenses, tuition, books, and all the basic things that you need while you're in college. One of the really popular student loan repayment plan programs is like an income-driven repayment plan, which means that especially when you get out of school, when you're making less money, you pay a little bit less on your student loans. But just like one of the commenters said, you're not really paying much on interest, you're just paying the minimum payment, and so that interest continues to capitalize and grow. Then you wind up with $100,000 in student loan debt, and you are going to take, 10 to 20 years to pay it off. So it's a really imperfect system that needs a lot of improvements, in my opinion.
Let me know if you think this is a scam. You take out a loan to give me $100,000, right? And I'll guarantee you that in 4 years, I will give you a job that pays $50,000 a year, and you'll be owing me at least $1,000 a month in payments for the next 30 years. Until you pay me back, you are never going to get ahead, and the career I put you in is is going to be really hard to grow in. I mean, you're pretty much going to be living paycheck to paycheck until that loan is paid back, but hey, at least you got a good education. If this was a serious business proposal, you would never do it and you would call this a scam. So why don't we say the same thing about college? I get it, some people do need to get degrees in order to do very specific jobs, like be a doctor, a lawyer. But for 97% of the other students, these banks are taking advantage of 18-year-olds and putting them in financial jail. And a lot of these loans don't have locked-in rates, so someone could be paying 15% of an interest rate on their loan. So when the market fluctuates, the interest can increase. When my husband signed his student loan with the government, it was a variable rate, so it's at 6%, and now it's double, it's at 12%. And that's why student loans are a scam.
So the Trump administration has announced that they are going to be collecting on student loans that are in default. If you are a federal employee, they're going to garnish your wages. You know, if you're not a federal employee, you might still get your wages garnished, but if you go to collections, you know, your credit score is going to drop. It could be on your taxes, like you're going to owe money on your taxes. I don't know. I don't understand how y'all could forgive all these billionaires who took out PPP loans when they didn't take no loss during COVID. Forgive all those loans, but don't forgive the 18-year-old who got $50,000 with no income, no credit history, because y'all told us that we need to go to college to get a good job. We don't get no forgiveness. But the billionaires who already get all these tax cuts, they get their loans forgiven. When I first graduated college, and you know, I think it's like 6 to 9 months before you get the letter to start paying back, my payment was like $580. And I'm just like, who the hell has $580? I just graduated college. Who has $600 to give y'all every month? And when I tried to change it, I'm like, I'm trying to make payments. I can't make no $600 payment. They were not trying, like, there was no leeway. It was deferred. So I deferred. And then, you know, about a year ago, well, over a year ago now, but over a year ago, my company did mass layoffs and I got laid off. So then I deferred it again. But long story short, I'm going to get my master's degree. I need some more time, okay? I work for the bank. They're going to pay for it anyways. Might as well just go back and get some more time because I don't have $750 to give y'all or however much money they're going to say that I owe them. I got trips to go on. I got stuff to do, okay? I don't have time. I will wait until we get some forgiveness for the next president to come in because somebody's going to have to forgive something. Y'all could forgive the millionaires and billionaires. Y'all can forgive me, an 18-year-old who should have just went to trade school or some shit. What are y'all gonna do?